Welcome to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to IT marketing leaders about how to drive more sales. Hosted by Carlos Corredor, founder of Condor, an Inc. 5000 company and one of the fastest growing IT marketing agencies in the US.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And this episode is brought to you by Condor Digital Marketing Agency. You feel that your marketing team is stretched thin, running campaigns, building decks, reporting on leads that no one follows up on, and it's still not enough? Condor helps you turn all the marketing efforts no one sees into pipeline that no one can ignore. They are built to work with marketing departments and mid-market B2B tech services across their main functions: demand generation, website, and marketing operations. You can learn more at condoragency.com. And in today's episode, we want to welcome Jocelyn Sexton. She is the Vice President of Marketing at Growth Acceleration Partners. She has over 20 years of experience, including the past decade, where she has focused on B2B companies across software as a service, AI, professional services. So, we'll be talking to her about, how she has successfully driven growth and demand, in those companies, working closely with the C-suite. So welcome, Jocelyn, and please, expand a little bit on that intro.
Thanks, Carlos. Nice to be here. I like you said, I have 20 years of experience in marketing and communications. I started my career in communications and then pivoted to marketing about 15, 16 years ago. I got my MBA from UT Austin, Hokum, for anybody who's a Longhorn. And I've been for the past 10 years, 11 years, doing marketing in technology companies, whether they are software development companies or companies that use technology to do a slew of random things, from SaaS products to measurement and keeping things on track. And it's been great. I feel at home working in technology and working in B2B companies. So it's been a fun career.
Yeah. Quick comment on the University of Texas. I just saw an article yesterday that they have the most valuable football program in the entire country. The college program, of course, right?
Yeah.
But it's by far, way ahead of the other colleges. I think it's like worth more than, more than 2 billion in revenue when no one else has 1.5, and it's crazy.
It's a lot, yes. And I love going to football games. I saw a meme the other day that said something about, I'm so ready for my life and my attitude to be determined by, boys that are between 18 and 22 years old and how they perform on Saturdays. So yes, big football fan.
And Justin, with your experience, and we were talking a little bit before starting to record the podcast about how things have changed, in marketing in general, especially in B2B, right? It used to be a lot of events before COVID that went down, but it's making a comeback, right? So before getting, I guess, into the details of events and whatnot, how would you see that change throughout the last, 10, 15 years?
A lot of it depends on industry and what you're doing. I remember being fairly new into the marketing realm of things, and I was at a conference and sitting at a table, and everybody was kind of talking about like what they do, what they focus on. And some people were very big on email marketing. They talked about their campaigns that they were running. Some folks talked about events, meaning they were going to conferences and different things. And I met one guy who said that he spends most of his marketing budget taking people golfing and on hunting trips and like going on helicopter rides. Oh, maybe need to rethink what industry I'm in, because I'm not taking helicopter rides and playing golf all day. So for me, a lot of the events that we were going to 10 years ago or so were the big mega conferences, and the companies I worked at would have big user group meetings. And so our customers, our clients, our prospects, they were coming to events that we would host a lot of times in Austin, because I've worked at companies that have Austin headquarters. But also other places. We, you're in Florida, there's a lot of conferences in Orlando, and we would have all the people that were either interested in our product or interested in the types of services we have, or we're all kind of in the same industry. And it's a good way to get all these people in one space, listening to speakers, getting to demo things live, and just kind of have that community feel. I've also been to a lot of conferences where, again, it's usually pretty industry focused or career path focused. And so, again, there's a lot of there's a good value in getting people. I like to say to a watering hole. You're getting all the people who want to drink from the same pond together, and they're there to share stories and have water coolers and all that kind of stuff. When COVID hit, obviously that killed it for a while. And so as marketers, we had to get creative of how do we still get folks together? How do we still keep the sense of community? We can't do it in person. And so I think there was a big, even though webinars and podcasts and things were already popular at the time, there was a big lift in that. How do you create these virtual experiences? How do you stay connected with people when you're on Zoom and you're, not physically together in an office? And so I think that was great for a lot of reasons. Personally, it was great for me because I work from home, and I only go into an office about once a week, but I really do well working from home because I'm able to put my head down, concentrate, get things done, but I'm still on camera probably 6 hours a day. Like, I still have my community, I'm still seeing people face to face. Um, I think after a couple of years, I think there was a little bit of, like, webinar fatigue. No, we're on camera and we're listening to things so much, it's just like, "Oh gosh, I cannot watch another webinar. I do not wanna see another demo." And so that's when the value of what we do really started to make an impact. Nobody was going to come to just listen to any old webinar anymore. You really had to share something or engage people in a way that was very interesting and worth their time. So whether it's from hearing from a certain type of expert or sharing something that you can't really read about or you need to get different people's opinions about, I, I think it became a good time for showing the value of what you do, showing the differentiation of what you do. And that's important, and it's an important skill as a marketer. Now, 2025, I'm traveling a lot and going to conferences. Where I work right now at Growth Acceleration Partners, we're doing a lot of stuff with more personal and impactful things. So we're doing smaller things like dinners or going to very small events. I've got an event 2 weeks ago in Nashville, and there were less than 100 people there. So it was very intimate. There were very good conversations. We were actually able to have like real solid conversations and get real deep real quick because there wasn't the pressure of, oh, I got to make it to this speaking session or I need to go over here and meet these people. Um, and so now I see a lot of value in that kind of personal intimacy, being able to quickly build rapport and get down to, you know, what kind of pain points are you having without even trying to sell something, without even trying to do that. Like, just tell me how it's going because as marketers, we have a lot of challenges. The engineers and the technology leaders that I work with have a lot of challenges. And sometimes it's nice to just be a person and have a conversation and listen to the story, listen to what you hear. And then perhaps, depending on where you work or the type of product or service you sell, that there may be an opportunity to say, okay, so I heard you talk about that. We have something similar. Have you tried this? Or, yeah, we hear that a lot from other CTOs that we work with, and here's what we've been doing. And there's a nice feel of authenticity in that, and not the high pressure sales, but just, whew, we're in it together. Here's what I've seen. Let's talk about this. Maybe there's a solution.
It's I agree that you don't necessarily have to go to a big event, sponsored or even at least I met a guy that had been doing, he's in sales, he's been in sales for a long time, and he was telling me, I don't even like, as you were talking about it, that event was in Chicago, but he knew that I was in Miami. It's like, oh yeah, I remember the event that he comes here. It's at the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach, and he's like, it's really expensive. I don't even buy a ticket for the event, right? I just go to the bar, open a tab, and email all of the attendees, saying that I'll be in the bar for free. It's the best ROI that I get out of any event.
Yeah.
And I can totally see it, and I also, sponsor dinner, sponsor breakfast, right? Around the event. I understand why those can be so powerful. Is that what you have seen too?
I mean, an open bar tab always helps. But yes, I do think that, again, when you go to a conference, it's also information overload sometimes. I went to another conference earlier this year in San Diego. It was a marketing conference. So I wasn't there to try to hustle or sell anything. I was there to learn. But even after a while, even with AI note takers and everything else, your brain gets a little frazzled at the end of the day. And there was a vendor who basically said, I'm going to be over here um, getting free ice cream, which is different than a free cocktail, but still good enough for me to be like, oh yeah, I'll come get some ice cream. And didn't end up buying anything. Didn't even really feel like I was being sold something, but it was a good brand awareness play for just, hey, I'm Frank, and have some ice cream, and let's talk, you know, with each other, but then also with the other 15 or so people who were here. And again, building community, having conversation. Um, if you are in the kind of job that's very lead generation, demand generation heavy, and the object of your job is to book meetings and have sales and grow revenue, sometimes those things aren't seen as valuable or as impactful because relationships take time. It's a little bit of a longer play, but I do see a lot of value in taking the time when you can to kind of grow those relationships organically. And again, showing like what solutions you have, or what insight you have.
Yeah, how? Because I think ultimately, from a, let's say, career path aspect, it makes total sense, right? If you focus on an industry, to go to these events, build relationships, whether that's for your current company, maybe your next job, etc., right?
Right.
However, for the marketing leader of a marketing department, right, and they have a budget of, I don't know, a million, 5 million, whatever it might be for the year, right? And you're gonna spend anywhere from a couple $1,000 to, especially if you're sponsoring and depending on the size, up to 50 or 100K, right, in an
Oh
event.
yeah.
So how do you decide, right, as a marketing leader, how much, and how much is to invest in events, and how to measure the impact?
Yeah, it's hard. Um, so two things. When I used to work at National Instruments NI, which is now part of Emerson, which I also used to work at. When I worked at NI, the rule of thumb was that it needed to be 3x. So if we went to an event and we spent, you know, $100,000, we need to make $300,000 coming out of it, either in pipeline or actual revenue. And so I've always, but not always, but for the last, I would say, 8 years or so, thought 3x is a good amount. What makes it tricky is it's expensive, to go to a hotel like that in Miami, that's not that's not cheap. And so how many people do you send to the event? What's the airline ticket? How much is their hotel? Like all those little things add up. And a lot of times it does come out of my marketing budget. And so I have to be very diligent, and do a lot of research to figure out what is the expectation, who's the audience, what are we trying to achieve. Um, and a lot of times it is audience driven. So I, will talk to the event organizers and ask for, they're a lot of times they're not going to give you like, here's the list of everybody attending, but they can at least give you titles and company names. You can discover a lot just by looking at the website and how they're promoting things. And then AI has made it much easier to say, hey, look at this event. Who went last year? Who are the sponsors for this year? What are the expected titles? Um, and that makes it a little bit easier to pick from. I got approached about an event recently. The industry seemed right. The topics that they were talking about seemed right. And at a quick glance, there's just like, oh, yeah, this seems like a good one. And then you look through the titles, and it's a lot of marketing, sales, business development folks, fine, but I'm trying to attract or I'm trying to talk with chief technology officers or VPs of engineering. I'm looking for very high level um, people, high level leaders who have buying power and are doing things with technology. So even though the topics and everything sounded right, the audience is really key. And then this is it seems intuitive, but it also helps to see like what the vibe is or what people are doing there. Sometimes depending on where you go, um, somebody's just I mean, I hate saying this, but they're just looking for a free trip to Miami or a free trip to Nashville. They're not looking by. They're not really looking to have serious conversation, or they're attending the kind of conference that they've always attended for years and years, and they're going to see their friends, to see their old coworkers, like to they're going for their community, not necessarily because they have intent to buy anything. And that can be fine, again, if you're working on a brand awareness play, but if the goal of your meeting is to, you know, make money or get meetings or different things like that, you need to kind of understand what are people doing there? Are they looking to go to these events to find solutions, to meet new vendors, to problem solve, or are they going to, enjoy the community?
Yeah. Yeah. For example, I work in marketing, so the HubSpot uh, annual event. They have a name for it. I forgot.
Is that the one that's in Boston?
I think so.
Okay.
Actually, I'll tell you the name. HubSpot. I can't believe I don't remember the name because they have
We'll search it on the fly.
inbound, but of course,
Yeah.
uh, annual event, right? And there, it's like most of the people that are going are number one is really to learn. And number two is like, oh, I finally got my company to send me to the event, because
Right.
everyone knows it, and I get to chat, and I get to be in Boston, and probably not necessarily, not necessarily the type of decision maker relationships that you are looking to build. So I think that's a good point. Um, Another one that we have seen in our clients is that they get really excited about the event. They do most of the times they do a good prep in the event, and they put a lot of effort during the event, right? So they come up prepared with who's going, what their pitch is going to be, you know. But then really after the event happens, kind of like the fever fades and you forget about it, and then you wonder, well, why didn't we get an ROI out of it? Or they even like forget to measure the ROI out of it, or
Right. Where are your leads? What did you do? Yeah.
put the leads in the CRM, follow up with them, right? So it's really in the nurturing part. That's really where we're seeing that you can make or break, the event investment. Is that fair to say? Is that what you've seen as well?
Yeah, and I think that's too where the makeup and the trust of your team is important. Um, if you are sending somebody to an event, you have to make sure that you're all aligned on what you're trying to do. I have a high school age son, and he likes to call me Clearance Carly because I'm always, looking for a deal or tracking, what we spent. And I'm really Clearance Carly at work. Like it I I spend my budget like it's really my budget. Like if it was my own money, how am I going to spend this? I'm not I'm not paying to send you to Boston and have steak dinners and not get anything done. Like we as a team need to collectively understand these are the objectives. This is how it's going to be measured. These are the expectations when we get back together. Is that we're expecting these numbers or these conversations. We need to track it, and marketing wants to help. Like we want to help before the event with getting you prepared with stories or content or just nuggets and facts of information that can kind of pop up organically, but then also we want to help you afterwards. So when you come back with this hopefully long list of leads, we want to make sure that we're nurturing them and that there are good conversations that happen. Anything that we can do to personalize things is great. So we we have a good tendency that, yeah, sometimes it's hard to get things in Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever right away, but we use Slack and it's like, guys, just put it in Slack. Like, even if it's just, you know, she has a kid that plays lacrosse and she just went on vacation to the Bahamas. Like, anything that will help you remember like what that conversation was, what y'all talked about. Because when you talk to everybody about the same thing, it's hard to remember who you talk to about what. But if you can remember, oh yeah, that's the one that has the kid in lacrosse or whatever it may be, then you can more easily remember what were the actual pain points that she had? What was the solution? Why did something not work before? And you can remember those details to make the conversations after the event uh, more valuable, more personalized, more just showing, hey, I paid attention. I remember who you are.
No, that's a great point because I think, unless your memory is, crazy good,
Superhuman.
exactly superhuman, you're not gonna remember. I mean, you're meeting tens, if not hundreds of people,
Yep.
so it's impossible. It's impossible. And it has happened to me. I talk to a person, I'm engaged, I'm there, I'm nothing. And I hear what you're saying. I hear about your kid, I'm playing lacrosse and, vacationing in Mallorca. I hear all of that, right? It's like, obviously, I'm not going to forget. And then the next afternoon, the next day, you're like, what? Who, Mallorca? Was this? Was it this? Was this? The other one is crazy. Whereas you have so I ended up, I learned that the hard way. And then I start sending, to myself voice notes, as you mentioned, right? In Slack,
Yeah.
or WhatsApp, whatever. And then, you can go and check, okay. And it's great. You just put them on 2x, and then okay, oh, I remember perfectly. And then it makes a complete difference when you reach out, because
Because you remember.
wow, this person, actually remembers what I said. It's not another one's like, oh, hey, I hope you're back safe. It's like, well, not bad because I live here. You didn't even know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Back safe from the event. And, if you want to have a consultation, I'm here. It's like, that probably won't get a reply.
I agree. And I think too, that's where um, technology can either help or hinder because, again, like you said, if you're leaving voice notes, if you're quickly, putting something in Slack, I think that's great. But back in the day when we would actually, when people had business cards or, when you had some kind of paper or something, I would scribble notes on the back of cards and just be like, okay, here are the things that I remember about them. Here's, the business card will tell you where they're located and what their title is. But I want to remember, you know, oh, he had a dog and his daughter just graduated from college or whatever it was that I wanted to remember. And scribbling that real quickly before I went and stuck the business card in a bucket or something was super helpful. So whatever method you have to remember that, I really think it's important because yeah, you'll forget and then you look stupid. So you wanna make it as personal as you can. People really do care about personalization. And I think most people are smart enough to see when it's AI generated or when it's fake in some way. Um, my team were really big on A/B testing and just experimentations of different ways of doing things. And I've told the team I'm one person, so I'm sure not everybody feels this way. But if I ever see my name in the subject line and it says something like Jocelyn, try blah blah blah, that's spam. Like that's weird. Like nobody would ever put my name in the subject line. And I feel like everybody probably has stories where the name that you have on the list is not the name they would ever actually be called. I have a friend whose birth certificate name, the name for her email is Jennifer. Nobody calls her Jennifer. Her name is Missy. But she doesn't have Missy on her business card. It doesn't have Missy if you're like looking for her, as you're gathering a list. But if she sees anything that says Jennifer, she automatically knows they don't know me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it can actually get you in trouble sometimes, depending on what their name is and what they actually go by.
No, that's actually a great. I'm going to start. I don't know, introducing myself as I don't know how because stuff too. But I definitely see all those messages bombarding you on LinkedIn. So, for example, for all the way that I know is because in LinkedIn, we don't only have Condor, we have Condor, vertical dash, all business digital marketing agency, or that was the old one. Now it's just digital marketing agency or B2B. So every time I see, hi, I noticed that you guys have Condor vertical dash. I know it's AI. I don't even open. I don't even read it. Right.
Yep.
So I can see how that works for names as well. How
It's
about
funny too. Just one more story. So Jocelyn can be definitely hard to spell, but sometimes also hard to say. And so there was a while, like if I was getting something at Starbucks or at Chick-fil-A and they asked your name, I would always say my daughter's name because it's easy to spell, easy to say. Well, I guess I did it too many times because then I started getting emails with her name on them, and it's like, oh, she's 11 years old. Like she doesn't have, an email address that she's actively using. So now anytime I see her name on something, it's like, oh, no, that's an ad. That's spam.
and from you have also experience with content marketing, right? So in terms of events, right, what's some advice that you have of what collateral or how can you get support to have, yeah, to be memorable, right? Well, that's during the event or after the event. Like, what tips do you have in terms of that?
I think it really depends on what the event is, and again how things are going to be um, absorbed, taken in, read, or seen. Sometimes a video really does make sense because it's short, it's captivating, it's something that's memorable. Sometimes you're going to an event or you're doing something where it really needs to be technical. And if you show a video, it's going to look way too fluffy, way too marketing. Like those types of personas may not care at all about that. They would almost rather it look kind of ugly if it's very technical and answering the questions they want. So once you kind of find out what the vibe is, I think, and again, maybe vibe's not the right word, but just you get a feel for like how people, what they're going there for and how they like to receive information. Then it's a matter of making sure that you're arming your sales force or your field marketing folks, whoever it is that's going to be there, with what they need to make an impact. So sometimes it, sometimes people really do want like a piece of paper or something. It's rare, and I feel like it's becoming less and less of a thing because people don't want to carry something around. But if you, depending on where you go, sometimes it really is valuable. I've been surprised at how many times we've run out of pieces of collateral. People really were interested in taking it. Um, Other times, it's just making sure that our folks have the stories and the nuggets that they need. We have uh, an AI, an LLM, where we put all of our success stories in there, but then we also put quotes that we had and stories that are not necessarily, we wouldn't necessarily post them on our website, but it's stories that we know internally. It's quotes that we've received from customers. And our sales team is able to use that tool and type in something quickly like, hey, what stories do we have about health tech? Or what stories do we have from um, the food and beverage industry about what we did with data pipelines? Something very specific. And because we've fed a lot of information into that tool, they can kind of quickly pull stories out. And it's built in a way to where it's very bite-sized type information. And then if they want more details, it provides them to the bigger piece of content. So whether that's a white paper or a blog post or video or something, but they at least have that kind of 1 to 3 minute summary of it. And then if it resonates with people, they instantly have a way to send them the longer version of that story. So I think that's been very helpful. You have to be able to meet a variety of needs. You don't have infinite amount of content. And I think most marketers know, like, you wanna do something once, but then you would wanna do it 7 different ways. So you write a blog post, but then you wanna make it into a video and a quote and, put it in a PowerPoint presentation, all these different ways to use that one piece of content. And now I think with events and again with the personalization piece of it, It's how do you do it in more bite-sized pieces of it before you send it to the bigger piece of content. So it's being
Yeah.
prepared for all those ways.
And how about, you're saying that right after COVID, people were saturated on webinars. Now, shifting to digital events, let's say. But again, I think they are saturated. Back in the day, events were a thing, and people started getting tired of all events, and whoever, let's say, uh, hit first in terms of digital strategies had an advantage. I think everybody now, it's digital strategies, for example, robos to reach out on LinkedIn, cold email, paid search. Those are saturated. They can work, right, if you're doing it, but it's no longer, just
It's not your silver bullet anymore like it used to be.
Whereas now, I think again, event both physical and digital, depending on how you do it, there's an opportunity for that, right? In terms of digital events and webinars, right? What's your take?
Meaning like how to make an impact with the digital ones, or if digital is better than in person?
No, if there's still opportunity to do digital events, and then under what circumstances?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, I hope there is. My company's still doing webinars. I think the biggest difference is how do you get people interested, or how do you keep them interested? So sometimes, sometimes you need a big name to come, or you need somebody who is seen as a thought leader, somebody where it's just like, oh yeah, based on who they are or the title or where they work. I want to hear what HubSpot says about this, or I want to hear what Microsoft says about that. Other times, I'm sure nobody who's going to listen to this podcast has ever heard of me, but sometimes it's a matter of how do you promote things in a way where you're able to show the story, to show that it's interesting, and be able to tease parts of it out to where even if they don't know the speaker, they know that if they or they think that if they listen to this event or attend this additional event, there's going to be something either worthwhile and valuable, or it's at least going to be interesting and kind of entertaining. I listen to a lot of podcasts as I'm driving into work or as I'm walking around my neighborhood in the morning. I'm not listening to them or watching them on a screen and like taking notes with everything. Sometimes it's just I want to hear the conversation. I want to hear the thought leadership. So again, depending on what your goals are, I do think there's a lot of value in them. You just need to have the right kind of expectations about what are you trying to get out of it? What are the KPIs at the end? If you are having a webinar and you're expecting 5,000 hot leads, I mean, that might happen depending on where you work, but the chances of that being legit might not be aligned with the actual digital event that you have. But yeah, there's still value.
Another thing is that you have to make sure that the topic aligns with the level of seniority, right? You're gonna have a very technical webinar and hope that all of the C-suite members are going to attend, right? If you're gonna have the C-suite members, then you probably want to talk about something really strategic, and as you mentioned, right, bringing a guest that has a lot of you know valuable things to say to that audience, probably with at least the same, if not more, experience than them. Whereas if you're talking about something very technical, you can even have your manager there, and you can ask him questions. But again, you're probably gonna want to aim for managers, not for the chief revenue officer or the CIO.
Agreed. And I think too, like long time ago, somebody had said it's a thing to say that knowledge is power. And I was speaking somewhat recently at an event at Accenture. I was on a panel and they had asked about that. I was just like, it's not knowledge that's power, it's sharing knowledge that's power. That's where I've seen the most powerful, influential, highly respected people do well is they're not hoarding the information, they're sharing the information. So sometimes, again, it's not so much who's the big name on your webinar, but are they sharing it? Do they have a pretty active LinkedIn following? Are they sharing it and they're a nice or interesting person, so their friends are sharing it? You get a lot more reach and a lot more visibility when people are sharing information. So just again, kind of tailoring things in a way to where you think it's going to be shared a bit more broadly can also help, get more engagement, get more visibility because people are sharing it.
Mhm.
Sharing is caring.
Jocelyn, what else? Perhaps I haven't asked in terms of events or in general, even growth. That we didn't get a chance to talk to that you think would be helpful for people to listen.
I mean, growth is not just like the goal. Growth is the engine that we're all part of now. And so I do think it's important whether you're doing in-person events, digital events, content, whatever it may be, is making sure that you are really aligned on what your growth engine is, how you're achieving it, and making sure that the strategy and the execution match. Sometimes the strategy can be really big and far reaching and, oh, we should do this, and then you don't have the team to pull it off. And so you have to pull back a little bit and narrow on, okay, what are really the most important things. But I think alignment, clarity, all those things are also really important as you're going after growth, making sure that you're fully aligned on what the outcomes are, what the tactics that you're using to get there. I think that alignment and clarity not only make going after growth better or easier, but it also just helps with the overall attitude of your team. People don't like being confused. People don't like being um, pushed in too many different directions. So I think having that clarity and that cohesive collaboration, all those C words, those are good things to make sure that you're executing properly and that you're executing to the strategy that you created.
All right. Well, Jocelyn, thanks a lot, for coming. Really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience is going to also be
Of
thankful.
course. Thank you so much. And I will make sure that I share this because it's important, even if I'm sure I didn't really say anything groundbreaking, but sometimes just hearing how other people are doing things, why they're doing things, it can spur ideas and make you look at things in different ways. So I think that's always helpful.
Totally. I actually, when I do some walks in the afternoon and everything, I start hearing, listening to podcasts and everything that, a lot of good ideas come that I write down so I don't forget. And it doesn't have to be anything necessarily groundbreaking, but like even fresh perspective of hearing in a way that you haven't thought about it before, or you simply reminding that that's how some other people have done it that has been successful, that's helpful. Anyways, thanks again, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thanks for listening to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe for future episodes. Until next time.